Hello, everyone. Ride sharing. What if it disappeared tomorrow? If ride sharing disappeared tomorrow, a lot of individuals would be hurting. A lot of people would have to pivot. And the reason why a lot of individuals would have to pivot is because a lot of people, as we know, depend on ride sharing apps to get from point A to point B all over. If they disappear tomorrow, then there would be more carpooling. Um, if they disappear tomorrow, a lot of people will have to find a way, which could be a positive thing, but could also be a negative thing because it could add stress. But overall, a lot of people will have to pivot and depend on that family member that you're not really cool with. You would probably have to, if you only have one vehicle, you would probably try to pay your mechanic a little more money to see if they can expedite the process. But I believe it will go back to the old school way where a lot of taxis would come back and interventions. And some may say, well, taxis cost more. Yeah, taxis do cost more. However, if you need to get somewhere, you need to get somewhere. And since most people need to get to work, they need to get themselves or their children or their parents or loved ones to certain appointments. And let's not mention a lot of people like to be in these streets. It can be going to the happy hour, you know, not to mention having to go out of town for work, having to hop on a plane because you can't drive everywhere for business. So taxis will be back in full. Also, I believe a lot of people will be hurting ride if ride sharing disappeared tomorrow for the simple fact that a lot of individuals or contractors have built businesses around the ride share apps. So if there's no ride sharing, there is no business. Now imagine if you're an individual that has been doing the ride share business format for about, let's say, 3 years. You have a good structure, you have good organization, but everything is based around this. Like you can set your hours, you can drive, you can set your app to where you're driving certain hours, certain parts of the city where you're in, certain time of day, the ins and outs. Then boom, it all comes to a conclusion. Now, if this person, him or her, them or they, if they're great planners and they had a plan and they had a foresight like this may not last forever, or they don't want to do this forever, then they would be okay. But let's focus on the high percentage of people that will not be okay. There would be panicking, there would be disagreements, there would be a lot of social media would be going crazy. And how do I know this? One of the ride share apps, due to some political banter back and forth, it got taken away in Minnesota, where the Vikings play, the home of the Minnesota Vikings. Um, yeah, the rideshare apps, one of the rideshare apps I know for certain, is no longer there. I'm not going to mention what application, but there's a rideshare application there due to things going on with the governor. Just imagine that got kicked in during wintertime and it gets crazy cold in Minnesota. And no, I've never been there in case you're wondering, but I watch the news. So I'm not really fond of the cold, but it definitely gets cold there. So what do those people do? Do they call back they old employers? Let's say they're retired and they were just trying to do something to get out the house. Like what do they do? I mean, it could be a vet and any type of vet, a young vet, depending on what the vets have set up, they may not necessarily have to work, but that's tough. If they disappear tomorrow, ride sharing that is, I think some people would take a couple of days off. Some people would be forced to take a couple of days off because they would have to reevaluate, and then they would have to come up with another game plan. Now, people that work from home, they will still be affected too. I know you all out there may be thinking, hey, I work from home. I wouldn't be affected. Yeah, maybe not initially, but let's say you have more than one car and something happened to both cars. Depending on how far you stay, you may have to take a bus. But what if your position, the company you work for, what if there's no bus route? What if you're not able to take a bike? Let's say you had to take a taxi and it was 40 there and 45 back. Let's say just twice out of the week. Let's say you have 2 off days, hypothetically. So let's say 3 of those days you have to do that. 2 of those days you can call a friend, or you don't have to carpool with someone. Now you have to mind you, most people probably didn't put that in their budget, but that will add up quickly. I'm not going to do the math because I'll let you all do it. I just know that adds up quickly. But this is why they say people have written articles about ride sharing, and sometimes there's been glitches. No matter the ride share app, the food delivery, um, or ride share apps in general, there's been a glitch at times where you couldn't access it, things weren't working, and then let's say we got wind that it was going to disappear tomorrow. Now I think customer service would be tied up. And now, mind you, a lot of these ride share apps, there's some that allow you to call the customer, to call them, but then there's others where you have to hit certain checkpoints to be able to talk to a human being. That's crazy. But they're trying to weed out what they're trying to weed out. And plus, when you create the company, you can put as many roadblocks you think is necessary. So I'm not complaining about it, but I'm just saying that's what it is. But I do think the server would be the overload because people will be sending them emails saying they're wrong, they can't do it. Yeah. Just imagine you accept a job, and let's say it's like 45 minutes away from you. Let's say you don't have a car. Let's say you just take ride share on a consistent basis. And let's say you had no one. Let's say you was a single person, you didn't have no significant other, man or woman. Uh, let's say you let's say you had let's say you was a parent and you were married and one person was under the weather or one person was sick. And it was all based around you taking ride share. Then you got wind that, hey, starting tomorrow, ride share will be no more. Do you still take that job? You all tell me in the comments. Do you take that job knowing that you don't know how you're going to get to work? Have to weigh the options. Now, depending on how it's paying and the opportunity, want to just take it, and then they may modify their budget because steady income is a necessity. So those are some of the things that I think would happen if the ride sharing apps would disappear tomorrow. And I mean all of them. The ones for food, the ones that allow people to serve people while also making money for themselves and their families. No app is exempt. But you all can tell me what you all think, you know. And hopefully, knock on wood, that won't ever happen in the future. But if you think it does, or if you think it would be a tough time for you then, or you're going through a tough time now, hit the link below and purchase my book. The book will help you get through your tough time, or somebody you know, help keep you motivated, keep you inspired to continue to put one foot in front of the other. And if you don't think it'll help you, it can help your mate. And if you don't have a mate slash significant other, a husband or a wife, you can get it for your teenage kid. You can get it for a friend or any other family member. And if that won't do, you can get it for an enemy. And if you get it for an enemy, it's a high chance that after they read the book and they implement it, you all become good friends. At minimum, good associates. Yeah, I just wanted to bring you all this. You all continue to have a good one, and I'll check with you all later. Peace.